It was Christmas Eve, and I'd cooked for 2 days. Then my son called. We're on a cruise. All of us. They left me alone amidst my feast, and they used my savings to do it. I simply listened. But as I sat there, I knew this would be their last Christmas taking me for granted. You won't believe what happened next. Like, share, and tell me where you are listening from. The scent of roasted turkey, sage, and caramelized apples usually brought me immense joy, a warmth that settled deep in my bones, chasing away the chill of a December afternoon. Today, however, it felt like a cruel mockery. At 70 years old, I, Eleanor, had spent the last 2 days meticulously preparing my home for Christmas dinner, a tradition I had upheld religiously since my dear Arthur passed away 25 years ago. Every year, without fail, the table would be set for 12. My son David, his wife Sarah, their 2 children, my daughter Susan, her husband Mark, and their 2 little ones, plus a couple of beloved cousins who always made the effort. This year, it was just the immediate family, as David liked to call it. 12 places, polished silverware, crisp linen napkins, and my best china, all laid out with loving care. It was 2:30 p.m. The golden glow of late afternoon sun slanted through the dining room windows, illuminating the untouched feast. The doorbell hadn't rung, the familiar shouts of grandchildren hadn't echoed through the hall. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, startling me. It was David. My heart lifted, expecting his usual loving inquiry about the dinner, or perhaps a question about Chloe's favorite cookies, or if I had prepared her special little room for her overnight stay. But David's voice, when he finally spoke, was not right. It held an artificial cheerfulness, a forced casualness that immediately put me on edge. Listen, Mom, he began, and the way he drew out the word mom was a dead giveaway. There's been a change of plans. My breath caught in my throat. Change of plans? What do you mean, darling? I asked, a tremor in my voice I tried to mask. My mind raced, trying to conjure a reasonable explanation. Had someone fallen ill? A last-minute work emergency? But then, why the peculiar tone? Well, all of us were on a cruise, he blurted out, a hint of hurried excitement in his voice. All of us, Sarah, the kids, Susan, Mark, their children, everyone. It's a 15-day Caribbean trip, left this morning. The words hit me like a physical blow. A cruise, all of them? Without me? My meticulously prepared Christmas dinner, the culmination of days of effort and a lifetime of tradition, suddenly felt meaningless. A cruise? I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. But David, it's Christmas Eve. I've been cooking since yesterday morning. The turkey is nearly ready. There was an awkward pause on David's end. I could hear muffled voices in the background, a distant clinking of glasses, and a burst of laughter. It sounded festive, joyous, utterly indifferent to the woman standing alone in her kitchen with a rapidly cooling feast. Yeah, well, Sarah found this amazing last-minute deal, he explained, still with that forced casualness, as if discussing the weather. Such a good price. We just couldn't pass it up. And you know, Mom, with your seasickness, it just wouldn't have been fun for you, and honestly, there wasn't enough room anyway. Exactly enough cabins for our immediate families. Immediate families. The phrase echoed in my mind, stinging like a wasp. Was I not immediate family? Was I, their mother and grandmother, now relegated to an outsider? My mind reeled, trying to process the casual cruelty. Seasickness? I hadn't had seasickness in 30 years, and even then it was mild. It was a flimsy excuse, easily seen through. The real blow was not enough room, followed by our immediate families, a deliberate exclusion spoken with such chilling nonchalance. When did you leave? I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. The pain was too deep for tears, too shocking for anger. This morning, Mom, we're already out at sea. The weather's gorgeous, he chirped, oblivious or uncaring of the emotional devastation he was inflicting. More laughter, more clinking of glasses. Anyway, just wanted to let you know. Merry Christmas, Mom. Gotta run now, they're calling us for dinner. And with that, he hung up, leaving me in the crushing silence of my own home, surrounded by the ghosts of Christmases past and the fragrant evidence of a future that would not be. I sat down at the head of the meticulously set table, 12 places, now 11 empty chairs stretching out before me. The gleaming silverware reflected my numb face, the succulent turkey, the fluffy mashed potatoes. The vibrant cranberry sauce all stood untouched. Abandoned, my mind, once consumed by the sheer disbelief and hurt, suddenly became unnervingly clear. A thought flickered, a tiny, unsettling suspicion. I remembered a vague conversation with Sarah about travel funds a few weeks ago. Excusing myself from the table, I walked to my study and opened my laptop. With trembling fingers, I navigated to my online banking portal. My eyes scanned my savings account where I kept the nest egg Arthur and I had painstakingly built over decades. A gasp escaped my lips. 3 days prior, a large withdrawal, precisely 12,1980s, was clearly listed. The payee, Royal Caribbean Cruises. The horror of the realization washed over me, colder than any December wind. They hadn't just gone on a cruise without me. They hadn't just used flimsy excuses to exclude me. They had used my money, my hard-earned savings, without asking, to take a family vacation without me. It was not merely an oversight, not just a casual slight. It was a profound act of betrayal, a theft veiled in holiday cheer. Slowly, deliberately, I returned to the dining room. One by one, I began to remove the place settings, stacking the fine china, gathering the silverware. 11 settings disappeared, leaving only one, my own. I dished myself a small portion of the turkey and potatoes, a silent, solitary meal amidst the wreckage of a broken Christmas. As I ate, a quiet resolve settled within me, hardening the edges of my grief. This would be the last Christmas I spent being taken for granted. This would be the last time they would treat me as an item, as an inconvenience, as anything less than the woman who had loved and sacrificed for them unconditionally. They had no idea what awaited them. Christmas Eve dissolved into a sleepless night. The silence in the house, usually a welcome tranquility, now pressed in on me, heavy with the weight of unspent joy and bitter betrayal. The lingering scent of the ruined feast was a constant reminder. Unable to bear the empty rooms and the accusing glow of the Christmas tree, I climbed the familiar creaking stairs to the attic. The attic was a sanctuary of memories, a treasure trove of my past. In the dim light filtering through the small, grimy window, I found the old cedar chest, its dark wood worn smooth by time. Opening it, the sweet, musky scent of cedars mingled with the faint aroma of dried potpourri, a scent that always brought Arthur back to me. Inside, stacked neatly, were photo albums, faded letters, and a collection of mementos that charted the course of my life. My fingers brushed against the worn leather of the first album. It opened to our wedding day, a sepia-toned image of Arthur and me, young and full of dreams. He was 34 when he died, a sudden, cruel twist of fate that left me a widow at 30 with 3 small children. David, my eldest, just 5, Sarah, my bright-eyed daughter, 3, and my baby James, a mere 18 months old. That day, my world had shattered. But I had promised Arthur I would carry on, that I would make sure our children had the best life possible. Flipping through the pages, I saw them grow. David, a mischievous grin always on his face. Sarah, with her intense, thoughtful gaze. James, a blur of energy. The photos captured their smiles, their milestones, their innocent joy. But they hid the truth of those years, the 15 years where I worked 2 jobs, a secretary by day and a waitress by night, just to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. My sister Carol, a saint, would often watch the children, allowing me to chase every extra hour, every additional dollar. Weekends were spent doing odd jobs, cleaning houses, anything to supplement my meager income. I remembered Christmases when I would mend my worn coat for another season, my feet aching from the cold seeping through thin, cracked winter boots. Also, David could have that coveted remote control car, or Sarah her elaborate dollhouse, or James his bright red fire truck. Their eyes, wide with wonder on Christmas morning, were my only reward, a payment far more precious than any luxury I could have afforded for myself. Birthday cakes, frosted with painstaking care, were masterpieces of necessity, elaborate creations I spent hours baking and decorating because a store-bought one was simply an extravagance we couldn't afford. A photo of David in his cap and gown, beaming at his high school graduation, brought a bittersweet smile to my lips. That year, he wanted a car, a taste of independence before college. I worked extra shifts for 6 months, hoarding every penny, and surprised him with a used Ford Focus. His joy was palpable, a moment that made every aching bone, every late night, worth it. 2 years later, my own reliable but aging sedan finally gave up the ghost. I simply walked or took the bus, never mentioning it to David, never wanting to burden him. Then came Sarah's acceptance letter to NYU, a thick envelope, crisp and official. Her dream university. The tuition fees were astronomical. I recalled visiting the bank, signing the papers to remortgage the house, our family home, for the second time. I did it silently, without a word to Sarah, knowing her pride would never let her accept it if she knew the cost. Her success, her bright future, felt like my own, a shared triumph, an investment in her happiness I never regretted. Further down, tucked away, was a folded lawyer's receipt. James, 19 years old, reckless and headstrong, a marijuana possession charge. $3,000 for legal fees, a debt I put on my credit card, spending years chipping away at it, watching the interest accrue, another silent burden I bore for my child. My gaze fell upon a stack of property deeds. The main house, the one I had just refinanced for Sarah's college, then again for some unexpected repairs. The small lake cottage Arthur had built, a peaceful retreat now mainly used by David and Sarah for their summer getaways. And a vacant lot, inherited from Arthur's side of the family, a piece of land he'd always dreamed of building a retirement home on. All of it, every single deed, was solely in my name. Arthur had insisted on it, a protective measure, he'd said, to ensure I was always secure, always provided for. His foresight, his love, now felt like a heavy weight. I looked out the attic window at the snow-covered yard, silent and pristine under the breaking dawn. My life, laid bare in these albums, these papers, was a testament to sacrifice. I had devoted every fiber of my being to my children, to giving them stability, opportunities, a future brighter than I had ever dared dream for myself. My own dreams, my own desires, had been neatly folded away, tucked into the cedar chest alongside these memories, gathering dust. A hot, angry tear tracked a path down my cheek. They had repaid that lifetime of devotion, that endless well of sacrifice, by stealing my savings for a 15-day Caribbean cruise they had deliberately excluded me from. It wasn't just the money, it was the casual disrespect, the callous disregard for a mother's love. The first rays of dawn pierced the gloom of the attic, painting the snow-covered world in soft pastels. My pain, sharp and raw, began to harden, to transform into a cold, unwavering resolve. I'd raise them better than this, I whispered into the quiet, an oath whispered to myself. I descended the stairs, walked into the living room, and without a moment's hesitation, unplugged the Christmas tree. The twinkling lights vanished, plunging the room into the cold gray light of morning. The magic was gone. My next stop was my home office. It was time for a new kind of preparation. The morning after Christmas, with the house plunged into a cold, silent gloom, I bypassed the kitchen and went straight to my home office. My old leather-bound address book lay open on my desk, its pages brittle with age. My finger traced the familiar name, Richard Hayes, Arthur's college roommate and dearest friend, now a highly respected real estate attorney in the city. He was the only person I trusted enough to navigate this treacherous new landscape. I dialed his number, my hand steady despite the tremor in my voice. Richard, it's Eleanor Vance. Eleanor, Merry Christmas, darling. I trust you had a wonderful time with the children? His booming, cheerful voice was a stark contrast to my internal turmoil. I swallowed hard, forcing a semblance of normalcy. I've been better, Richard, I replied, choosing my words carefully. There was no need to burden him with the full, raw pain of my Christmas betrayal just yet. I need some legal advice about my properties. Could I possibly come in and see you? Of course, Eleanor. Come in tomorrow morning. My first appointment is free. His voice softened, sensing the underlying tension in mine. Everything all right, dear? I'll tell you all about it when I see you, I promised, and hung up, a tiny shred of purpose replacing the crushing despair. The next morning I dressed with meticulous care. A navy pantsuit, perfectly pressed, a strand of pearls, and sensible low heels. I needed to feel put together, dignified, even if my heart felt like crumbling ash. This was not a visit to bemoan my fate, it was a mission. Richard's office was located in a sleek, modern high-rise downtown. He greeted me at the reception, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "Eleanor, it's good to see you. You look well." I offered a weak smile. "You're too kind, Richard. We both know I look every day of my 70 years." He led me into his spacious office, filled with leather-bound books and an impressive view of the city skyline. Once we were seated, coffee steaming between us, the facade of polite pleasantries crumbled. I took a deep breath and began to recount everything, starting with the meticulously prepared Christmas dinner, David's abrupt call, the chilling news of the cruise, and finally the gut-wrenching discovery of the $12,180 withdrawal from my savings account. Richard listened, his expression shifting from warm concern to a grave seriousness. His fingers drummed softly on his mahogany desk as I spoke. "I see," he said when I finished, his voice low and thoughtful. "So you are positive your children used your money, your savings, without your knowledge or permission, to fund this trip?" "Positive," I affirmed, my voice firm despite the lingering tremor. "I never gave David access to withdraw that much. He has my account details for emergency bills, but not for something of this magnitude, and certainly not for an unauthorized vacation." Richard leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk. "Eleanor, what you've described, that's elder financial abuse. It's a serious offense. We could pursue legal action." I shook my head immediately. "No," I said, a wave of weariness washing over me. "I don't want to go that route. Not yet, anyway." The thought of taking my own children to court, of exposing our family's dirty laundry, was too abhorrent, too painful. My purpose was not retribution through the legal system. Not in that way. "Before we discuss any further steps," I continued, "I need to confirm something. The house, the lake cottage, the vacant lot Arthur left me, they're all still solely in my name, correct?" Richard nodded, picking up a pen and making a note. "Yes, Eleanor. I handled the transfer myself after Arthur passed. Everything is unequivocally in your name. Arthur was always very clear about protecting you." "Thank God for my stubbornness," I murmured, a faint, bitter smile touching my lips. Arthur had wanted me to add the children to the deeds as they came of age, but I had always resisted, putting it off, always feeling it was too soon. A premonition, perhaps, that I had been too busy to heed. "Tell me, Richard," I asked, my voice gaining strength, "legally, what can I do with these properties?" He looked at me, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. "They're yours, Eleanor. You can do whatever you want with them. Sell them, rent them, gift them. You have full legal ownership and control." He paused, then asked gently, "What are you thinking, Eleanor?" My gaze met his, unwavering. "I want to sell all of them, Richard, and I want to do it quickly, before my family returns from their cruise, especially the main house." Richard's brow furrowed. "Eleanor, I understand you're hurting right now. Emotions are high. Are you sure you want to make such a significant decision in this state? Perhaps we should wait until your children return, until you've had a chance to speak with them." I cut him off, my voice sharp with a sudden, fierce anger. "They don't see me, Richard. They only see dollar signs. They only see their inheritance." I paused, then leaned in, my voice dropping to a low, intense whisper. "I found this, Richard." I pulled a folded brochure from my purse and pushed it across the desk. "Sunny Pines Assisted Living. And look here." My finger pointed to the margin. "Oates and David's handwriting. Convince Mom it's time. Easy transition. Sell the house. Cover costs." Richard picked up the brochure, his face darkening as he read the scrawled notes. "They were planning to put me in a home, Richard," I stated, the words heavy with a chilling realization. "My children, whom I sacrificed everything for, were planning to take my home, my independence, and my dignity. They see me as a burden, as an obstacle to their financial gain. I refuse to be a burden, not to them and not to myself." Richard studied me for a long moment, his gaze searching, perhaps for any flicker of doubt. He saw none. The anger, the hurt, had solidified into a bedrock of resolve. Finally, he nodded slowly. All right, Eleanor. If you're certain this is what you want, I'll help you. You know I always will. His assurance was a balm to my raw nerves. Thank you, Richard. I need this. He leaned back in his chair, already transitioning into lawyer mode, his mind whirring with logistics. The market is strong right now, Eleanor. A quick sale for the house, the cottage, and the vacant lot is definitely achievable, especially if we price them competitively. We'll need to move fast, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. Good, I confirmed, a sense of urgency propelling me forward. I want to be in my own place, something small, manageable, something that I choose for myself before they return from their cruise. The thought of facing them in that house, their house in their minds, filled me with a cold dread. I needed my own sanctuary. It's a tight timeline, Richard mused, tapping his pen against his chin. 15 days, give or take, is not much for 3 property sales and a purchase. But, he added with a reassuring smile, it's doable. We'll prioritize the house for showings. The cottage and lot can follow. He paused, then asked, what about their belongings? Your children's things? Are there personal items of theirs in the house you want to keep? I thought about the dusty boxes in the attic, the forgotten toys, the old clothes they'd left behind, expecting me to preserve them like precious artifacts. Put it all in storage, I decided. I'll pay for 3 months. After that, it's their responsibility. They can collect it or dispose of it as they see fit. The idea of decluttering not just my home but my life felt liberating. And where do you plan to go, Eleanor? Richard inquired, genuine curiosity in his tone. Do you have a place in mind? A flutter of excitement, fragile but undeniable, stirred within me. For the first time in decades, I was making a decision purely for myself. Yes, I said, a smile finally gracing my lips. There's a small condominium complex near the park. Parkview condominiums. I've always admired them, their quiet charm, the mature trees. I passed by one day and saw a for sale sign. I haven't even looked inside yet, but it feels right. Richard's eyes brightened. Ah, Park View. Those are lovely, Eleanor. Excellent location, well-maintained, and certainly within your budget, especially after these sales. A perfect fit for you. As we delved into the practicalities, finalizing the details with methodical precision, contacting real estate agents, preparing documentation, discussing timelines, I felt a significant weight lifting from my shoulders. It wasn't just the betrayal, the money, or the proposed assisted living that had burdened me. It was the expectation, the invisible chains of tradition and perceived responsibility that had kept me tethered to that large house for so long. I had stayed in that house, a monument to my past and my children's future, because I believed it was what they needed, what they expected. It was the family home, the place where memories were made, where grandchildren would visit for holidays. But their betrayal, their casual theft, their blatant disregard for my feelings had proven otherwise. They valued the legacy not for its sentiment, but for its liquidity. They saw an inheritance, not a home. By the time I left Richard's office, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the street, a comprehensive plan was firmly in place. Real estate agents would be contacted that day. The house, the cottage, and the vacant lot would be listed by week's end. My new home, the small condominium near the park, would be secured, and hopefully, I would be settled in it before their ship even docked. Driving home through the familiar streets, I felt an unexpected sense of freedom, a lightness I hadn't experienced since Arthur's passing. This was a decision purely for myself, unburdened by the needs or expectations of anyone else. It was terrifying, yes, to uproot my entire life at 70, to sever ties with a home filled with so many memories. But it felt exhilarating. It felt right. A new chapter, entirely my own, was about to begin. The whirlwind began the moment I left Richard's office. For the next 2 weeks, I had little time to dwell on the betrayal, the constant activity, a welcome distraction. Richard had immediately connected me with Susan Miller, a dynamo of a real estate agent with bright eyes and an infectious enthusiasm. These properties are gems, Mrs. Warren, Susan had exclaimed during her initial walkthrough, her voice brimming with confidence. Especially the house and the cottage. The market is hot right now, and with a fair price, we'll have these gone in no time. Her optimism was a refreshing breeze in the stagnant air of my grief. She was right. The lake cottage, a beloved retreat that had been the site of countless family vacations, sold first in a swift 3 days for cash. It was a bittersweet farewell, but the financial security it offered, along with the vacant lot which quickly went to a local developer, was a powerful reassurance. These two sales alone provided more than enough for my new condominium and a comfortable financial cushion. The practicalities of selling overshadowed the emotional attachments, and for that I was grateful. Then came the main house, my home for 45 years, the place where Arthur and I had built our lives, where our children had grown from babes to adults. It sold within 2 weeks to a lovely young family with three boisterous young children. The mother, a woman with a gentle smile and a hopeful glint in her eyes, had toured the house and simply said, "I can see this being a home where memories are made." Her words resonated deeply, a quiet affirmation that the house would live on, loved and cherished by another generation. Meanwhile, my perfect new home materialized. A charming two-bedroom condominium on the second floor of the Park View complex. It had a lovely balcony that overlooked a serene duck pond, an accessible elevator, and a range of community amenities that promised a new independent lifestyle. It needed some updating, a fresh coat of paint, new fixtures, but I embraced it. This place would be mine. Not a repository of family history or expectations, but a fresh start, a canvas on which to paint a life of my own choosing. Of course, moments of doubt, fragile and fleeting, did surface. Running my hand along the door frame of David's old room, where faint height marks charted his growth, brought a pang of nostalgia. Catching sight of a faded crayon drawing still taped inside a kitchen cabinet, a collaborative masterpiece by Sarah and James, stirred old stories. But the stark memory of Christmas Eve, David's dismissive tone, the laughter in the background, the 12,180 disappearing from my savings quickly surged forward, erasing any lingering sentimentality. The betrayal was too deep, the disrespect too profound. They had made their choice, and now so had I. I hired a moving company, not just for their muscle, but for their efficiency in packing. My instructions were clear. Only my selected, cherished items, the ones that held true personal value, would go to the new condo. The rest, the children's forgotten belongings, the oversized furniture I no longer needed, the remnants of a life lived for others, would go to a storage unit for them or to charity. The moving foreman, a burly but kind man, paused at the cherry wood dining room set, a magnificent piece Arthur had gifted me on our 10th anniversary. "You're sure you want us to put this in storage, ma'am?" he asked, his voice tinged with surprise. "It's quite valuable." I looked at the 12-seater table, the ghosts of Christmas past still lingering around it. "I'm sure," I replied, my voice firm. "I won't need it where I'm going." My new condo had a cozy dining nook, perfect for one or for the occasional intimate gathering with friends I would choose. Methodically, I walked through each room of the house for the last time, a pilgrimage of farewell. In David's old desk, I found a stack of his childhood birthday cards. In Sarah's closet, a delicate, handmade prom dress she had been so proud of. In James's room, his abandoned guitar, strings broken, a forgotten dream. These tangible pieces of their past, these remnants of my sacrificed love, I carefully placed into separate, labeled boxes. David's memories, Sarah's keepsakes, James's belongings. They would be delivered to the storage unit, waiting for them, a silent testament to a mother's enduring, if now complicated, love. 2 days before my children's ship was due to dock, I stood in the emptied house. Echoes of laughter and quiet conversations, of footsteps running up and down the stairs, seemed to fill the hollow rooms. I walked through each one, from the sun-drenched living room to the cozy master bedroom, taking it all in, imprinting the final quiet image on my memory. Then, with a deep, steadying breath, I locked the front door for the very last time. The key, left under the welcome mat for the new owners, felt lighter than I expected. As I walked down the driveway away from the home that had defined me for so long, I felt not grief, but a profound sense of rightness. This chapter of my life had ended. It was time to begin a new one, entirely on my own terms. Keep watching to see what happens when my children return. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. My new condominium glowed with the soft morning light, a stark contrast to the hollow emptiness of my previous home. It was smaller, yes, but felt expansive with possibilities. I spent the day arranging my cherished belongings, hanging a few select photos, Arthur's smiling face, my sister Carol laughing, and feeling a profound sense of peace settle over me. This was my space, chosen by my mom, for me. That evening I sat on my balcony, watching the ducks glide across the pond below. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine. I allowed myself to imagine their return, their shock, certainly their anger, and undoubtedly the inevitable accusations about my mental competence. But I was ready. Richard had been thorough. He had helped me update my will, establishing separate trusts for my grandchildren's education, ensuring they would benefit directly, bypassing their parents entirely. He had also named my sister Carol, my unwavering confidant, as my durable power of attorney. My affairs were in order, my future secured. The next morning, precisely at 9:17 a.m., the phone rang. It was David. I let it ring 3 times, allowing the anticipation to build, a subtle act of defiance, before picking it up. "Hello," I said, my voice neutral, calm. "Mom, where are you? What's going on?" David's voice was frantic, laced with panic and a touch of disbelief. "We just got to the house, and there's a moving truck. A family is moving in." "What have you done?" His hurried words confirmed my predictions. They had gone straight to the old house, expecting everything to be as they'd left it, expecting me to be waiting. "Yes, I sold," I stated, my voice even, unhurried. "The house, David, and the lake cottage, and your father's vacant lot." A beat of stunned silence followed, so profound I could almost hear the blood draining from his face. Then muffled, raised voices erupted in the background. I recognized Sarah's sharp tone, James's deeper, indignant protests. They were together, a united front of outrage. David returned to the phone, his voice strained, tightly controlled. "What do you mean you sold the house? Where are you going to live? Where are we going to stay when we visit?" The audacity of his concern for their convenience, not my well-being, was astounding. "I'm at Parkview Condominiums," I replied, a small, private smile playing on my lips. "Number 203. And as for your belongings, I've had them placed in a storage unit. I've paid for 3 months. After that, it's your responsibility." I calmly recited the address and the access code. "This is insane, Mom," David sputtered, his composure finally cracking. "You didn't even discuss this with us. How could you make such a monumental decision without telling your own children? Like you discussed taking $12,080 from my savings account for your cruise," I countered, the memory of that betrayal still sharp. "Or like you discussed your plans to put me in Sunny Pines assisted living facility." There was a fresh burst of silence, even more profound than before. David stammered, "Mom, that was just research. We were just looking into options for your future." "My future," I corrected him, "which is now secure in a home I chose for myself, one I purchased with my own money, not yours." Then Sarah's voice, sharper and more piercing than David's, cut through the line. She must have snatched the phone. "But those properties were our inheritance. You had no right to sell them. They were meant for us." "I had every right, Sarah," I responded, my voice firm, unwavering. "The deeds were in my name alone. An inheritance implies I'm dead, which despite your apparent wishes, I am very much not." A weak protest came from James in the background. "We never said we wanted you dead, Mom." "No," I retorted, letting a hint of the anger I'd suppressed for weeks seep into my tone. "You just wanted me out of the way in a retirement home while you divided up my assets." David's voice returned, attempting a conciliatory tone, trying to cajole me back into submission. "Mom, please. Selling everything is an extreme reaction. Let's talk about this. We can work this out." "No, David," I refused, the word a stone dropping into a well. "There's nothing to work out. The sales are final. I've moved on." "What about all our memories in that house?" Sarah demanded, her voice rising to a furious pitch. How could you just sell it out from under us? Don't you care about anything? Your father, I said, my voice low and steady, would be appalled at how you've treated me. And with that, I hung up. The silence that followed was not empty, but filled with the triumph of a battle fought and won. It wasn't like that, James weakly protested, his voice barely audible over the phone after my devastating revelation. It was exactly like that, I asserted, my voice unwavering. And I've put a stop to it. Then where are we supposed to go now? Sarah's voice, now tinged with genuine panic, cut in again. I allowed myself a dry chuckle. Well, I imagine a hotel is in order, or perhaps you can ask some of your generous friends. You have plenty of options, especially with whatever's left of my $12,080. David, losing all semblance of control, snapped, "This is ridiculous, Mom. You're acting like a spiteful child, not a 70-year-old woman. Have you lost your mind?" Actually, I calmly replied, feeling a profound sense of clarity. I've found it. For years, I've put your needs above my own dreams, above my own life. And how did you repay me? By excluding me from your Christmas plans, by helping yourselves to my savings, and by plotting to put me away in an assisted living facility. No more. My life is my own now. You'll regret this, Sarah warned, her voice laced with venom. When you're old and lonely and need help, you'll regret pushing us away. My resolve hardened further. I was old and lonely this Christmas, Sarah. The difference is now I'm choosing it on my terms. With that, I ended the call. A few minutes later, a bitter text from Brenda, David's sister, popped up on my screen, full of accusations and resentment. I ignored it, turned off my phone, and closed my eyes. The freedom I felt was terrifying, yes, but overwhelmingly exhilarating. A gentle knock startled me. It was Martha from Unit 4C, a kind-faced woman with a warm smile. "Welcome to Park View, Eleanor," she said, extending a small, potted plant. "Just wanted to say hello. We have a coffee group on Tuesdays if you'd like to join." Her simple act of kindness was the first fragile tendril of a new beginning. 6 months bloomed into a vibrant new chapter. My condo, once needing updating, became a reflection of my evolving self. I repainted the walls in soft, serene colors, replaced the worn carpets with gleaming hardwood, and filled the space with furniture chosen purely for my comfort and aesthetic pleasure. I joined Martha and Henry for their Tuesday coffee group, found a surprising joy in water aerobics at the community pool, and volunteered at the local library, rediscovering a love for books and quiet companionship. My relationship with my children remained fractured, a landscape of careful, cautious attempts at reconciliation from their side, met with a maintained emotional distance from mine. The wound was still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. But my grandchildren, especially the Chloe, reached out, their innocent curiosity and genuine affection a balm to my soul. I assured them while the house was gone, I was very much still here. Visits began, carefully orchestrated at my new home, strengthening my connection with them while maintaining the necessary boundaries with their parents. On the 6-month anniversary of my move to Park View, I decided it was time. I invited only my children for dinner, not for a celebration, but for clarity, for saying things that needed to be said without anger or haste. They arrived, hesitant, taking in my transformed condo, now vibrant and new, filled with furniture chosen just for me. Sarah looked around, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "It's nice," she commented, a hint of grudging approval. "Very modern." At dinner, the atmosphere was strained. After the meal, I took a deep breath and addressed them calmly, my voice steady. "For 45 years after your father died, I defined myself as your mother. I loved you, I sacrificed for you, and I built a life around your needs. But somewhere along the way, that sacrifice became expected rather than appreciated." I paused, allowing my words to sink in. "You claim you appreciated me, but where was that appreciation when you abandoned me on Christmas? When you helped yourselves to my savings for a luxury cruise? When you planned to put me in an assisted living facility and carve up my assets while I was still alive?" James, looking genuinely remorseful, finally admitted, "Mom, we never meant to hurt you. We didn't think." "That's exactly right," I agreed, a sad smile touching my lips. You didn't think about me, but I'm here now and I've learned to think about myself. I looked at each of them. I would like us to try again, not as mother and children in the old dynamic, but as adults who respect each other, if that's possible. David, chastened, finally offered a heartfelt apology. I'm sorry, Mom, truly. We, we treated you like an extension of ourselves, not like a person. We were wrong. I accepted his apology. It wasn't your finest moment, David, and it's not unforgivable, but it's just unforgettable. The dinner ended with cautious conversation, a tentative step toward a different future. As they left, Sarah surprisingly lingered and gave me a soft hug. Later, I sat on my balcony, the evening breeze cool against my skin, the gentle croaking of frogs from the pond, a comforting sound. I felt at peace. I had reclaimed my sense of self-worth, my right to be treated with dignity, my voice. The house was gone, yes, but I, Eleanor Warren, 70 years old and finally truly herself, I remained. Stronger, wiser, and wonderfully, unequivocally free.